Okay, so I just demonstrated the high harmony and the low harmony together with the melody. But that's not the only way you can harmonize with this song. So what I'd like to do now is I'd like to dive into the project and explain why I chose those specific notes while also showing you some other options. Now, I'll try to explain this as best I can, but keep in mind when it comes to harmony, there's really no wrong or right way to do it. It really just comes down to using your ear and picking what sounds best to you. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Here's the project. These 3 tracks right here are the vocal parts. This one in the middle, the yellow track, is the main melody. Now, if you haven't seen it already, be sure to check out my video, How to Harmonize the Easy Way. I go way more in depth about how to find harmony parts and all the different intricacies, but I'm just going to go ahead and give you a quick overview. In order to find the harmony, you have to start with the melody first. So here is our melody. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to start with the first note of the melody, and then to find the harmony, you just go either up or down 2 notes in scale. So if you want to find the high harmony, you start with the first note of the melody, and you go up 2 notes in scale. Da da da, so it should be that note right there. So let me go ahead and select the high harmony part, and there it is right there. So that note is 2 notes up in scale, not just 2 notes. It's not right there, because that would clash. No, you want to go up 2 notes in scale. But once you've found that note, you just lock on to the melody. So if the melody goes up, the harmony goes up with it. If the melody goes down, the harmony follows. So we can have a listen to that. And you can visually see how the melody's going up and the harmony's going up with it. Now for the low harmony, it's the same exact thing, you just go in the other direction. So we start with the melody, first note of the melody. You go down, 2 notes in scale right there, and then you can see once again it's just locking on and following the melody. Okay, so if you're just looking for one harmony part, that's really all there is to it. You just move down 2 notes in scale and then you just follow the melody. You may have to make a few tweaks here and there, but for the most part, that's going to work. However, if you start combining parts together, that's when you got to be a bit more precise with where the notes go. So let's go ahead and have a listen. Here is the first section right here. Okay, so thankfully that sounds pretty good. Let's listen to it in context with the music. Cool, sounds good to me, so let's move on. Here's the next phrasing of notes. So we've got 2 problem areas. The first problem is this section right here. Let's have a listen to that. You hear that? That chord right there, it just kind of sounds weird. And then the last problem is this last chord here. Okay? Now on its own, that last chord sounds fine. But when you hear it in context with the music, it clashes with the chord being played underneath of it. Hear how there's like some unsettling tension there, you know? There's something clashing. What's happening is our harmony's mostly fine, but our low harmony right here, this note, is singing a G sharp, but the chord being played underneath of it is a C minor. Now in a C minor chord, the root note is a C, and the 5th is a G. So we've got that G, and then right here we've got a G sharp, that note right next to G. So those 2 notes right next to each other, they're kind of creating some tension. So the easy way to fix this is just to take this note and drop it down a half step. Now it's on G, so now it's going to blend in really nicely with the chord being played underneath of it. So all we're doing here, we're just creating chords with our voices. But you have to keep in mind that there are also chords being played by the music. When our harmony was here, on this G sharp, this was creating a G sharp major chord. But that G sharp major being played over a C minor, it just doesn't really fit well together. So if we move it down a half step, now we've turned it into an inverted chord, which is a C minor, which matches what our music's playing underneath, so that fits a lot better. So just keep in mind that sometimes harmonies might sound good on their own, but then when you play them in context with the music, one of the harmony notes might clash with the chord being played underneath of it. But as you can see, the fix is pretty simple. Alright, so that's one problem fixed, but we also had a problem with this section here. Okay, you can just hear there's something weird about that chord. Now, because we're creating chords, you need to realize there are basically 4 types of chords. Major, minor, diminished, and augmented. Now, most of the time, if you create a major or a minor chord with your harmonies, it's going to fit just fine. So if we look at this first chord here, we've got a D sharp major, and you'll notice that there are 3 notes between the first and the third, and there are 2 notes between the third and the fifth. Now, if we look at this next chord right here, this is a minor chord, and you'll notice it's the opposite. It's got 2 notes between the first and the third, and it's got 3 notes between the third and the fifth. Now, the reason our harmony sounded weird in this section here is because we're creating a diminished chord, which you'll notice has 2 notes between the first and third, and 2 notes between the third and fifth. So it kind of has this like suspenseful sound. Now, it's not necessarily wrong to sing harmonies in a diminished chord. Just keep in mind that it has this sort of suspenseful sound to it. So it could be kind of cool to have sort of this suspenseful tension and then have it release into a chord that fits with the music. But again, you'd have to craft the song to work with that. Most of the time, it's going to stick out in a way that isn't nice. So we're going to fix it. All you have to do is either take the high harmony and move it up a step, or take the low harmony and move it down a step. So I'll demonstrate what that sounds like. So we can take this low harmony and we'll move it down right there to the next note. And let's listen to that. All right, that sounds pretty good. But another option, you could keep the low harmony where it was and instead move the high harmony up a step. Let's have a listen to that. So either one is fine, it's just a matter of which one you like better. So that's pretty much all there is to it. You just find those diminished chords, or the chords that are clashing with the music, and you just move them up or down a step, and usually that'll work it out, and it'll sound really nice. But you'll notice something here. You could do this, but you'll notice that by moving one of the harmony notes, we end up getting these repeated notes. So if I move the high harmony up, now we're singing that same note twice in a row. Whereas if I move the low harmony down, we're singing that note 2 times in a row. Now, there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but just keep in mind what kind of effect it has. If we look at the melody here, we'll notice that it's descending. And so if we want to support that movement, it might be better for the harmony to continue descending as well. And so with these 2 notes repeating, it kind of breaks that effect a little bit. But it's a simple fix. All you have to do is take either the repeated note and move it down, like that, or if we were to do the high harmony, we would take the note before it and move that up a step. Once again, you have the option to choose between either one. Now, I went with the option of moving the low harmony down, and I'll tell you why. When you first listen to the high harmony being moved up, it sounds pretty good on its own. And it even sounds good with the music. But you want to remember the vocal parts that come before and after the phrase as well. So if we look at the melody before, again, it doesn't necessarily sound wrong, but look at this. The melody is ending on this G right here, and then the next phrase is starting on the same note. So in order to best support the melody, I think the harmonies should also stay on the same note. So in the first phrase, our high harmony was on this A sharp, so instead of moving it up, I think it's better to keep it on that A sharp as well. To me, that doesn't sound quite as jumpy, and it does a better job supporting the melody. Now, one last thing before we move on to the next section, you'll notice that when I moved this low note down, that now this note is repeating, this A sharp right here. So you might be thinking, well, do I need to go ahead and move that down as well? And the choice is yours. If you want to move that down and you think it helps, go for it. In this case, I don't think it works, because by moving it down, it's on this kind of weird note that kind of clashes with the music. You hear that? I think it just sounds better to stay on the same note. And again, I can't exactly explain why, it's really just, that's what I think sounds best. Alright, so let's move on to the next phrase. So in this section, we've got two diminished chords. This section right here, and this section right here. So we're going to fix it just like we did last time. We can take either the high harmony and move it up a step, or we can take the low harmony and move it down a step. And then same as before, wherever we have repeated notes, we can make adjustments there as well. So since we move this low harmony down, now we've got this long repeat here where it's just singing that same note. So we're going to take this note and move it down. But we're also going to take this second note and move it down as well. So you might be thinking, wait, why are you doing that? Why aren't you just moving the one note? The reason why is because look at the other parts. The melody is singing the same note twice. The harmony should be singing the same note twice as well. So when we move this note down, we need to move the repeated note down as well. And then you'll notice at the end here, we're repeating this note. Now, you could move it down, and it doesn't sound bad. But once again, that's a section where I just think it sounds better staying on the same note. Now, why would I choose that? What's happening is the song is playing a C minor chord underneath of the vocal parts, and by leaving this note here on the C, our harmonies are also creating a C minor chord. So to me, that sounds the most resolved. It just fits nicely with the music. If I were to move it down, it doesn't necessarily sound bad, but it doesn't have that same effect of just releasing the tension built before it. So once again, I'm just using my ear to choose which note I think sounds best, but you might favor something different, and there's nothing wrong with kind of moving the notes around and picking what you think works best. And then we've got the last phrase, but it's all right. There's nothing really to fix here. And that's it. Those are all the harmony parts. So I hope that makes sense. I tried my best to kind of visualize this, and hopefully you can see why I chose the specific notes I chose, but also that you could go a different route. You might decide, you know what, I want to move those higher notes. I'd rather leave the low harmony where it was. And keep in mind there are other variations too, depending on which vocal layers you have, because you might not have the high and low harmony together. You might just have one part. Or you might have the high harmony singing an octave lower, or the low harmony singing an octave higher. So if you were to move it on a different octave, it might have a different effect. So right now the high harmony might be fine, but if I were to move it down an octave, it might blend with the chords a little bit differently, and I might have to tweak a few notes. So just keep that stuff in mind. So thanks for watching, guys. If you'd like to practice with these tracks, I'm actually going to have a link in the description with a free download, so you can download the backing tracks and all the different harmony parts, and you can isolate them and rearrange them however you would like, and practice with them. So hopefully you find that helpful. Thanks for watching. Until next time.